no-hit runs. We all know 'em, we all love them, but very absent from Genshin Impact. Besides that one time where Toronto did it, but whatever. Very absent from Genshin. So I wanted to change that. So I decided to no-hit run all regions. Not in this video, because that will take way too long, way too much editing, way too much everything. So I decided to only do Mondstadt. But the rules that I implemented were maybe a mistake. Maybe. Let's go over the rules, shall we? So first off, no taking hits. Well, no figure, it's a no-hit run, but whatever. I'm not allowed to use any shield abilities. What I mean by this is that for Zhongli, of course, I can only use his meteor, but not his shield. But when I use a shield character, but use their shield, obviously, I need to reset immediately. I used this instead of saying all characters with shields are banned, because there are still some characters that I would like to use in this no-hit run. So that's why that. I'm not allowed to use any characters that damage themselves. So characters like Nervillette, Farina, Cookie, Hu Tao are all banned. But I didn't consider the Bond of Life, because Bond of Life is not taking any damage. It only reduces the healing capacity that you can get. So that's why. I'm not allowed to use any characters that have constellations on them from the limited banner, including Technari. Why that? Technari is a standard banner character, but have you seen how strong his constellations are? Man is basically just a limited character in my eyes. If there are more characters like that in the future that are busted, that are in the standard banner, then I will just not use them. For me, the only two characters that are banned are Nahida C2 that I have and C1 Hu Tao, so Hu Tao is double banned. I'm not allowed to one-shot the enemy, the bosses. I'm not allowed to one-shot them once, because that is not fun. That is not fun, and I want a bit of a challenge. I don't want to one-hit KO every single boss for it. Last rule, I'm not allowed to use any glitches or exploits. The current only exploit that I know of that would help is the Traveler exploit. So if you're still living under a rock, which I doubt, so you probably know about the Traveler exploit, but let me show you. I found out later that I forgot to also mention about no long distance fighting, which means I cannot use archers to fight from long distances, like Ganyu doing mega damage and stuff like that. I don't have Ganyu myself, but archers cannot be used for long distance, more like close distance, whatever. That was something that I almost forgot when I was almost trying to start editing this video. So haha, I didn't forget, but yeah, I was still stupid for actually forgetting it in the first place. But then I chose to add two more rules, which are no characters higher than tier C, and all the bosses that I need to fight, I need to do in a row. With the rules out of the way, let's see who we're fighting. The bosses that I want to fight are the Cryo Cube, Electro Cube, Animo Cube, and Cryo Regisfine. I didn't include the weekly bosses, Andreas and Devalin, because they will have a separate video with all the other weekly bosses, which will be fun. uh, this is gonna be a bad idea. So what was the team that I was gonna use? So I decided to just scour the internet for three like overall Genshin tier lists from like websites, and I found out that the team of Yanfei, Chi-Chi, Dory, and Chongyun was the team that I wanted to use. Because most of them are like C or D tier. Well, half on half, C tier, D tier. I was first going to use Kachina instead of Dory, but then I saw that Kachina was B tier most of the times. So I was like, no. I will go with Yanfei, Chi-Chi, Dory, and Chongyun. For the order that I'm going to fight these monsters, these bosses, I chose to first go with the Cryo Cube because I had the least experience fighting him. Then the Cryo Regisvine for reasons that there was one thing in the challenge that was hard for me, and I lost the ability to do that because I was able to do it when I was not in doing the challenge, but in the challenge it was seemingly harder for me to do for some reason. Then the Electro Cube and then the Animal Cube. I'm not worried about those two. They are the easiest bosses and should not be a problem. If you're not interested in seeing how the bosses work or how I found out about a way to beat them easily, I will put a timestamp in the video to show you where you can just see how the fighting goes and if I made it or not. So for the Cryo Cube, there were a couple of attacks that I was mostly worried about, which I will only talk about the attacks that I was worried about, because if I go over all of them, then we're here for another 5 years. And I don't want that. I want this video to be out at least a bit in on time for my schedule, but whatever. The attacks that I was mostly worried about were the rolling attack and the ground attack. For the rolling attack, it was just going left or right when he rolls to you, but not get too far from him, because otherwise he would use one of his rolls if he has one. The Cryo Cube can roll a 0, a 1, or a 2 on a turn. What I mean by turn is that he can use one of his turns to just stop and roll towards the traveler or the character once again. If he doesn't have that, he just rolls right past, nothing to worry about. But once he stops, then you need to be careful that you're not too far away from him, because otherwise he can stop right in front of you and then it's harder to dodge. I would also advise against dodging towards him, for the fact that if he's too far away and he stops and you're sprinting towards him to dodge him, you can get hit pretty easily and it's not going to be fun. The attack from beneath are the other ones that I was worried about, because, yeah, spikes coming out. I find two ways that are handy, at least for me when I tried them, which is either running in a circle and sprinting when you know how long it takes before the spears are piercing you, or get into the circle of the cryo cube. Be aware if you do that that one might join you, but the other ones will just stop after you got in. So you only have to run towards the cryo cube, get in the circle, just dodge one of the spears, and then you can already attack. Which I will say is saving you much more time and much more damage if you're doing a no-hit run or just a challenge. The other one that I was also worried about that I did not say was him throwing spears at you beneath him 3 times, because there, if you miss and mistime it or just sprint and try to dodge the attack, it will still hurt you. So my advice is to just wait from a far distance from it. If it doesn't help, then sucks to be sucks to suck. You can be a legend and just once the second attack goes, then you can like sprint ahead of that. You can also just do it the first time, like once the first spears hit the ground, you can go at it. Just see what works for you best. On the last phase, though, I would say to get close, let him throw the snowballs at you and just redirect them. But don't get too close, because if you get too close, then he can just do a attack where if you don't know that it's coming, it can be ending a run immediately, which is not fun. Otherwise, the other attacks of the cryo cube are just spears that you just have to navigate through them. They're not really big of a problem. For the cryo Regisvine, I had only 2 attacks that I was worried about, which were the spinning around attack when you first break his shield and when he gets back up to get his other shield. And the other one is where he basically just does a weird move and lets just stuff at the ground hitting you. Those were the only 2 moves that I was worried about when fighting the Regisvine. For the Electrocube, I had only the wave attack when he just spins around and stuff like that. The other one was the cage, which I noticed later than the recordings, that you can break the shield, so you don't need to be worried about it. You can break literally the pillars of the cage. So when I found that out, I wasn't worried about it anymore, but I didn't during this recording. And for the Animal Cube, there is nothing. There is nothing to be worried about. He's the easiest freaking boss in the game, so I am not worried at all. I'm not worried at all. So how was I doing in the challenge? Well, I would show you if I still had the recordings, because my dumbass decided to delete all of them that are not usable, that I failed at. I'm sorry, I didn't anticipate me just showing that. And now I'm regretting my decision, so I'm just gonna show you the ones that I do have. So let's see what happened. everything was going smoothly after the cryocube. But then I fumbled. I fumbled at the boss that I now hate with a passion, the Animo Cube. Yes, I fumbled at the freaking Animo Cube. As they have this saying, you fly too close to the sun. Well, for me, it's the opposite. I flew too far away from the sun and got cold feet, and eventually I was hit. Run over. I was destroyed after this. For about 5 seconds, which, with a bit of courage and some cheering from someone that I was in a voice call with at this time, this is what happened in the next run. And there it goes. Beat the challenge, every loose end in less than an hour, and I could have stopped here. I could have stopped. But my brain was not satisfied yet. So I made it even harder on myself. So I chose to use only 2 characters and let those 2 also be the worst ranked characters in the whole game. Hydro Traveler and Amber. And I know, I'm crazy, but let me cook here, let me cook. So I am a Hydro main, as you might have seen in 2 other videos that I have talked about Traveler. And I know that C4, which I have, is giving you a shield, which kind of counteracts the challenge, but the shield is hot dog trash and only appears when you activate his E. And I'm not allowed to use Traveler's holding E. I can't just tap it, but the shield will appear and disappear immediately, so it's not going to be used, and if I get hit while in the shield, it doesn't help. So the shield is basically non-existing. And I do have to apologize to the Amber mains that I did not actually build Amber, so it was basically a Hydro Traveler solo. But Amber still did her part, and I'm actually proud of her because without Amber, I would probably not be so lucky. And as before, I also just didn't save any of those recordings as well that I filled. So I'm just going to show you what is next. I did choose to change the order a bit with just Anemo Cube and Electro Cube changing, because if I had to destroy the shield or just the prisms of the Electro Cube and I fumbled again on the Anemo Cube, I could never look at myself once again. So here it goes, the run with Hydro Traveler and Amber that I have. here we are, the last boss that I needed to fight. It is going well, but my worst fear had come to pass. He did the wave attack. I was scared. I was scared when I saw him doing the wave attack, but I knew I can do it. I had done this before. I have beaten the wave attack before. I was just scared, but I let my muscles do the work, not think about it, and here we freaking go. That was that. I beat the 4 Mondstadt bosses with just Hydro Traveler and Ember, no hit run whatsoever. But there is more to be done. As I've said in the beginning of this video, I will go all over Tevat to no hit run every single boss that I can. And Leeway is coming up next. And I will meet with an old friend of mine. Till that day, I will see you all in the next video. Have a good day, and I'll see you again.